Hey everybody, this is your host Gerald Jones, and I just wanted to start this show off by letting you know that if you are not following me or the Buy Black podcast page on Facebook, you are missing out. The show has jumped to live, and now every week we are doing an episode live on Facebook with a guest, and you are able to instantly engage, ask questions, and get connection with our experts right there in the moment. So follow me on Facebook. You can find me at facebook.com/GWJonesII and follow the Facebook Buy Black podcast page so that you can get connected in real time. Now let's start the show.
Your business should be aligned with who you are as a person. And if you don't know who you are as a person, how can you have a business that is going to be in alignment with who you are? So when we talk about business failure, a lot of times businesses fail because people thought this is what they wanted. I want a restaurant. Well, do you know what it really takes to run a restaurant? Is running a restaurant going to fit into your lifestyle? So when you do the personal work to know who you are, why you're here, what is your purpose, what is your passion, what are the things that are important to you, what are the things that move you, that drive you, that motivate you, then you're setting yourself up for success because now your business can be in alignment with that.
Buy Black Podcast, episode 60. If your mind ain't right, your business ain't tight. Self-care tips with my guest spiritual healer, Avalaura Gaither. Welcome to Buy Black, the voice of Black business. The only podcast that provides free marketing for growing Black companies, education for budding entrepreneurs, and a reliable place for consumers to find and spend money in quality Black-owned businesses. I'm your host, Gerald Jones, and if you learned something from this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Ready? Let's get to work. Hey everybody, welcome back to Buy Black, the voice of Black business. This is your host, Gerald Jones. Today, we are bringing you another great interview, great episode with a brand new friend of mine that I hope we will continue to collaborate and grow and work together. Her name is Avalaura, and she is a spiritual healer, a life coach, and a really, really, really good mentor. Avalaura, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Gerald.
Yes. So this is going to be a really fun conversation because Avalaura is here to help us learn as entrepreneurs, as business owners, how to get in touch with our, how to get grounded. And I don't really know the right terminology for it, so I'm not even going to try to go into that. But how we get grounded and how the importance of that to being able to run a successful business. Avalaura herself has been in business for over a decade, and so she's got the entrepreneur side, she's got the spiritual side, she's got it all going on. She's also got the head wrap, but y'all can't see that. And so I'm just going to hand it over to her right now. Avalaura, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your history, and all things you.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. That was funny. And I would say very fitting for my journey as well. So I love that. A little bit about me. I am a life coach and an intuitive consultant. And everybody always asks me what that means. But essentially what that means is that I, tap into my intuition and my knowingness so that I can help you to tap into yours and really see yourself from a different perspective, from a more authentic perspective, so that you can, everybody's talking about living your best life, so you can live your best life and whatever that means to you and your life and your relationships, your business and career. And how I got started was I actually, in some ways, this was always my plan in that I was one of those people from a very young age. I was always advising people. I'm the, firstborn of, three, I have, two other siblings. And so, as my mom would say, as my siblings would say, I was always a boss and, always very good at telling people what to do. But people actually listened to me, which, why are you listening to a child is beyond me. I think I actually gave them good advice. So when it came to deciding what I wanted to do with my life, I decided that I wanted to go into counseling, that I wanted to major in psychology. The plan was to be a psychologist and to do counseling. And I did some of that, although the plan got averted just a little bit, and that I majored in psychology at Howard University, and then I went back for my master's degree in social work. And, once I got, finished with my degrees and did all my formal training and got out into the social work career. I was particularly in mental health. I was a program director at an outpatient mental health clinic. And one of the things that I started to see in the, system, if you will, is that people weren't really getting the help that they needed. I really felt like we couldn't really support people the way that they needed to. We were limited by whatever funding it was, whether it was insurance, whether it was Medicaid or whatever. And so essentially we were just putting Band-Aids on people's problems. We weren't really getting to the root of things. We weren't really being able to delve deep. And so people just, were kind of coming back and forth into the system. And so instead of people, really being able to help people heal and to grow and to transform their lives like I wanted to do, I was just simply helping people to maintain their dysfunction.
Wow. So that's kind of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's kind of deep for me. You're getting into a role, because I think a lot of people do that. They want to go into that work either because they've experienced people who needed that support or because they just have a passion for helping people, but you get into a situation where you're helping people to maintain their dysfunction. Yes. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so, just that in and of itself gives me anxiety. So what did you do? How did you break out of that?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you the true answer. At first I did nothing. At first I got depressed. I felt like, what am I doing? I'm not living up to my potential. I'm not really getting to help people. I'm here stuck in this situation. I got all these degrees, did everything that I was supposed to do, and I'm not happy, And everybody said, well, you should be happy. I was recently married, got a house, had the car, had all the trappings, but I was literally miserable. And I went from really excited about my job to dreading going to work every day. Started gaining weight, anybody knows me, I'm a really positive person. I'm always laughing. I always have a smile on my face. And I wasn't like that anymore. I was getting depressed. I wasn't very happy. And so it really started to weigh on me. And I just got to the point where I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, where I could not live like that anymore. I couldn't do it. And I honestly, I didn't know what to do. And that's what's so interesting is like, here I am, I'm a program director at an outpatient mental health clinic. I'm, counseling people and helping them, but I didn't even know what to do in my own life. And I was, talking to one of my friends and she said, oh, Avalaura, I'm having this women's retreat. You should really come. And I said, fine. I didn't even care what it was. I just needed something. I
just needed to get away for a while.
Yes, I'm like, sign me up. I don't even care what it is. I don't even care where we're going. Just sign me up. And so I went, and it was one of the best decisions that I made. It was just a weekend, but I got back to soulful self-care, as I call it, as I teach about now. I got back into me. I got back to meditating and praying and spending time in nature and just talking to like-minded people and doing yoga and just taking care of myself and having fun and not thinking about, how terrible my life was and how miserable I was. And what happened was it made me really reflect and see how off balance I was and how off course I was and how, I literally forgot my own power. That here I am just simply existing instead of living. And I'm like, how did I get here? This isn't even who I am. And it's so interesting that a lot of my clients, they find themselves in the same situations when they come to me. Like, I thought I knew who I was, and now I'm over here acting like I'm powerless, don't even know what to do with my life when this is not who I am. And so that retreat made me realize just how off balance I was and how I was not fully living and how I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I literally had this breakthrough, but before the breakthrough, I had an emotional breakdown. And I found myself on my hands and knees, just crying out to God and just praying and doing the ugly cry. Like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know how I got here, but I know I can't stay here. This is not living. God help me, because I just can't do this anymore. I just let it all out.
Yes. That ugly cry, that's the life-changing cry. Like, that's when you just let it all go. Like, I'm going a different direction. Like, I feel like we use that term a lot, somebody ugly cries, but when you said that, like, my thought process for when I've ever gotten there, it's because I'm done trying to hold back. I'm done trying to hold a little bit of this pain inside of me because I got to keep going. It's like, it is all just going to flood and rush out now. I need to be empty. And when I get up, I'm going a different direction. So how did you come up from that? Did you immediately change direction with your career, or did you go back and kind of do something different in your space and then eventually change direction?
So here's what happened. Obviously after I did that, literally just surrendering, and like you said, that's that life-changing cry, I felt better. I in that moment, I felt better. Now, that was until I realized, like, oh shoot, I gotta go back to work on Monday morning. I gotta go back through this all over again. But I did. That's what I did. I left the retreat feeling wonderful, feeling great, had that high, got back to work on Monday morning, and I still didn't know what I was gonna do. But here's what happened. I, went to work. Everything was normal. And my boss calls me into his office. He's like, "Hey, Avalaura, I want to talk to you." I was like, "Sure. What's going on?" And he sits me down and he looks at me and he says, "I gotta let you go." And I said, "Wait, what?" He said, "Here's your severance pay. I have to let you go." And I said, "What do you mean you have to let me go?" And he's just like, "I think that you're wonderful. You're amazing." He said, "But, it's just not working out." And, no warning, no nothing. And I'm sitting there literally, now you're talking about a woman who graduated magna cum laude, who everything that she did was successful. Anything that I put my mind to was successful. Never had been fired from anything in my life. And here I am getting fired, and I'm literally in shock. Ego was in a tailspin. Ego was having a fit. And, and so I'm, all this is going on in my head. Like, how dare he? How can he do this to me? I cannot believe he's firing me. But then this little small voice kicks in, my spirit. And spirit is like, "Avalaura, why are you complaining? Why are you upset? This is what you prayed for. So what are you going to do?" And fortunately for me, I got out of ego and I started listening to spirit. And that really became my mission of, now what am I going to do? Am I going to go back into, the social work field and just get another job? Because if anybody knows anything about social work, it's not hard to get a job. Mm-hmm. So am I going to go? Am I going to get another job and still feel unfulfilled and feel like I'm not really making a difference? Or am I going to take the red pill and go venture into the path of the unknown and just, do my own thing that really is in alignment with who I am and, my passion and my purpose and what I was called to do. And I immediately decided that I was going to take that red pill. That I was just going to take a faith walk. And even though I knew nothing about business, that I knew that in order for me to really help people the way that I was called to do, that I had to do my own thing. I could not do it within someone else's system. I had to create my own. And so what I ended up doing is I literally took what I call my 6-month healing sabbatical, where I worked on myself. who am I? Why am I here? What is it that I was called to do? What is it that I can do that nobody else can do? What are my gifts? What are my talents? How can I really make an impact on this world? How can I do the things that I've always wanted to do in the way that I'm really serving myself and serving others and living in truth and living in purpose? And I did the life coaching. I did the counseling. I did all, a lot of the healing modalities I practice now. I learned hypnotherapy. I learned Reiki. I learned aromatherapy, dream interpretation, so many things. I was literally just immersed in all things healing. And at the end of that 6 months, I opened up Avalaura's Healing Center. And this was actually back in November of 2005. So it's been almost 13 years.
Yes. Wow. Well, wow. I have a question about your 6-month healing sabbatical. To be able to do that, and I know this is not the direct subject of our conversation, but to be able to do that, you had to have been making smart financial decisions beforehand. So you were in a good position to be able to take that time for yourself, right?
Well, I will tell you, I'm not going to say that my decisions were so smart, but what I am going to say is that what happened is, I will say one of the smartest things that I did at that time. So my ex-husband, we started investing in real estate.
Okay.
And what's really interesting about that is, when I married my ex-husband, he was actually a mechanic. And he had always said that he wanted to do real estate. And so we took this real estate training, and he was actually fired from his job. And he was immediately going to go back into being a mechanic. And I was like, what are you doing? We learn this real estate stuff, right? You said you wanted to be a real estate investor. You better go ahead on and do the real estate. And so that's what happened. So at that point where I got fired, we actually were making so much money from real estate that I was able to do that. And that actually was the seed money for Avalaura's Healing Center.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, obviously I'm not telling you anything you don't know already, but for anybody listening who isn't putting these pieces together, it's like it was almost like there was a plan, right? And maybe there wasn't a plan. No, there was a plan. But you were going through this situation, and then it's like you came up to the wall. You broke through that wall and just broke out and said, I cannot do this anymore. And it's almost like God, or, whatever version of him or her you believe in, just said, I've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that happened, it's like, okay, so now that you say you're ready, I'm going to force you down this path. I'm going to force you down that path. You've already set yourself up in this path. And it's like, what looks on the outside like it's just this huge storm, on the backside of it, you look and it's like the steps were just walking right up to each other.
That's right.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So, just in listening to that, and some of the things that I wrote down that you said earlier, you said, I forgot my own power. I was existing rather than living. And then you said that some of your clients have said, I thought I knew who I was. But now I'm learning who I really am. So I just got to tell you right now, everything that you said right there, this whole first part, you have been preaching right into my ear, into where both I am and where I've been headed, right? I'm not happy where I am. I'm not making the impact that I know that I can. I'm, not feeling great, gaining weight, trying to figure out how I got where I'm at when I'm so talented. And it's like this thing, but hearing, that this is where you were some, 14 or 15 years ago, and kind of your walk through that is giving me strength and power. So, I just want to ask, before we go into the main segment of the show, can you tell us a little bit more about what it feels like or what it looks like when somebody is existing rather than living? Because you also talked about helping people get in touch with their authentic self. So I feel like those things tie together. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like and what it should look like?
Yeah, it's, and obviously it's different for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge part of the work that I do with my clients, because here's what happens a lot of times. Most of us, what we do is we create our lives based upon the expectations of other people. And so what happens is, if you think about it in our society, we are not taught as children, as teenagers, as young adults to focus on who you are, what is your purpose, what is your passion, and follow that. We are taught that, you got to go to school. For many of us, get a college degree, work, provide for your family. That's what you do. We don't really care if you're happy or fulfilled. But this is essentially the path that you have to take. And so everything that you're taught in school is really about how to become a good employee, not how to be happy, not how to be fulfilled, not how to tap into your purpose, not how to live a life of truth. And so a lot of times, I have so many clients, they come to me, they became a doctor because their parents wanted them to be a doctor. They went to college because maybe they were first generation and all the expectations were they were going to make it where their other family members didn't, right? My father wanted me to be a lawyer because my mother was a lawyer. He just thought I would be great at it because we have a similar skill set.
Well, you've been bossing people around since you were 3.
Exactly, so. Right? And I was a great speaker, still am. So a lot of times we don't take the time to actually find ourselves, to tap into who we are, to do that reflection. And so when we go to school, if we go to college at 18, we don't know who we are, but we're supposed to declare a major and figure out what we want to do with our whole lives at 18. So most people go through, no matter how successful or unsuccessful they are, but get to a point in their life where they realize that they've been living their lives on other people's terms and not on their own. So when we talk about living in truth and talk about living in purpose and living an authentic life and not simply just existing, but actually living, that means living life according to your terms, whatever that looks like for you. I call it, super soul success, that you are successful according to your own soul, that you're living in your soul's truth, whatever that means. So that means you could have this high power job and you're making all this money, but really you just want to write and travel the world, or you want to be a musician or you want to be an artist. I have a client now who's struggling with, having this daytime job, IT, but really wants to be an artist. And not knowing how to break away from that security, and that false sense of security, because really no job is secure anymore. Absolutely. But that false sense of security that, getting that check every 2 weeks, and how am I going to support myself, painting and playing in a band and recording records and being a DJ? How am I going to do that?
Yeah, it is, and it is tough, and I can definitely say from experience, it's so much, it becomes so much tougher when you're in that mode and you know that it's not just you. It's not like, how am I going to support myself? It's how am I going to support all of these people? And it puts that pressure on even more of, well, I guess I have to settle. I guess I have to make sure I have that security because, you can go live in a cardboard box alone. And a lot of, spouses will say, as long as we got a cardboard box, I'll be in there with you. But you don't want to put that person through that. You don't want to create a situation where somebody is having to follow your dreams, if you will. So how do you get through that when you know that, you deciding to live your authentic life is going to affect other people having to also work with the decision of you go in that direction? Yeah.
That really is the healing process. It really is. It's really looking at, and that when I talk about that 6 months, it's the work that I did. Because even though I was able to take that time, I had no idea what I was going to do. I really didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I wanted to live greater. I knew that I wanted to make a bigger impact, but I had no idea how I was going to do these things. And so again, my way wouldn't necessarily look like somebody else's. At the end of the 6 months, Avalaura's Healing Center is what I came up with, and serving, people who are much like me. But I didn't know that at the time. And so that really is the work of the discovery of really reflecting, of looking at who you are, what your skill set is, how you can show up differently in the world, and how we're going to make that happen. Everybody's situation is different. And so obviously if you have a family, you have children, you couldn't necessarily do it in the way that I did it. But that's a part of the mapping out process. What I don't recommend for anyone is that you just simply jump into it without a plan.
Golden. So I love that. And we're going to break right there and take a quick advertising break. When we come back, we're actually going to pick up with Avalaura's Healing Center, and we'll talk about how you came into starting your business, learning about entrepreneurship, business ownership, and merging the two of those things to kind of create what you have now. So y'all stick with us. We will be right back. All right, guys, we are back, and it is time for us to go into the meat and potatoes of this program. So as we left off, Avalaura told us how she moved from the end of her social work career into a 6-month healing sabbatical, and then the outcome of that was the idea for Avalaura's Healing Center. So, Avalaura, talk to us a little bit about that. You said that when you started this process, you didn't know anything about business, didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, but you knew what your mission was. So talk to us about how you turned that mission and that vision into Avalaura's Healing Center and the things you learned along the way.
Yeah, so I will tell you that in the beginning, it was really a lot of, just solely operating on intuition, right? Because I need you all to put this in the context. This was 13 years ago. So there wasn't this big push about you need to get a business coach, a mentor, all of these things. And in fact, particularly in my industry, in the healing industry and the coaching industry and the counseling industry, you really did not find a lot of business acumen, if you will, because in my industry, it's really all about serving, right? Mm-hmm. And so I spent a lot of time making sure that I was the best that I could possibly be, the best healer, the best counselor, the best speaker, the best coach, because I wanted to serve my clients from a really high capacity. But what that meant was that I didn't take that same amount of time and put it into, well, how do I run a successful business, right? How do I market? How do I, all of these things that are so important, that was not stressed. So for me, what ended up happening is I got on the business training where I just had to kind of wing it and figure it all out in the beginning. And then I kind of figured that, wait a minute, you know what? I need help. I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm getting clients I was getting clients. But there were so many things that I could have done differently if I had had mentorship, if I had had business coaching, business training. I think it was very helpful that I was always a natural leader and, very smart and very intuitive. But there was certainly a lot of things that I could have done differently and better if I had had more help. So I winged it for a bit until I finally decided that, you know what? Yeah, I could be doing more. I could be making more money. I could be serving in a different way. And that's when I finally decided to get coaching and do some things. And that really changed the course of my business.
Okay. So did you get a life coach yourself, or did you get a specific business coach? How did you go about that process? And that's really a lot of what we're going to talk about today too, is why it is that entrepreneurs and business owners need coaches in their lives. So, kind of talk to us about that process and the change that happened in your business from it.
Yeah. So I've had both, I've had both. And I had more life coaching in the beginning because one of the things, and this is what I say, like, I know coaching now, this industry has changed so much. Again, when I started, it wasn't popular. And everybody wasn't running around calling themselves a coach. So when you said you were a life coach or people value that. Now it's like, oh, you're a life coach. But again, this was my background. So I am a counseling. I have a mental health background, a counseling background, and a coaching background. And as a part of my coaching process, I had to go through the process before I could even learn to take my client through the process.
Okay.
So that was huge for me. Again, when I tell you I wanted to serve at the greatest capacity. So even after all of my, schooling, I did another 2 years to become a life coach and spiritual counselor. I didn't even need all of that, but it was important to me. And so I had my own coach. I had my own counseling. And so that was extremely beneficial to me. And that it definitely helped me personally to know who I was and how I could serve in a greater way. Because, my saying is, if your mind ain't right, your business ain't tight.
Writing it down.
If your mind ain't right, your business ain't tight. And so that was important. I needed that foundation. That was a part of my belief system. I absolutely can do it. My confidence. So even though I didn't know what so many other things I could have been doing business wise, I was confident and believed in myself and know that I could jump out there and get it done.
Okay.
So that foundation was key.
Now, let me ask this question, because I know for those of us today going into the world of entrepreneurship, starting our own businesses, like you said, coaches are everywhere, right? And we typically think about business coaches, to help us out. Why is it that someone starting a business needs a life coach?
One of the most important things is that your business should be aligned with who you are as a person. And if you don't know who you are as a person, how can you have a business that is going to be in alignment with who you are? So when we talk about business failure, a lot of times businesses fail because people thought this is what they wanted. I want a restaurant. Well, do you know what it really takes to run a restaurant? Is running a restaurant going to fit into your lifestyle? So when you do the personal work to know who you are, why you're here, what is your purpose, what is your passion, what are the things that are important to you, what are the things that move you, that drive you, that motivate you, then you're setting yourself up for success, because now your business can be in alignment with that. So for me, initially what happens is my business is Avalaura's Healing Center, because what I thought that I wanted was the model of, I have this business and I work with, it's an integrative model. And so I am, the counselor and the coach, and I also do, energy healing, Reiki and chakra balancing, things like that. But then I might have an acupuncturist over here, a massage therapist over here, a chiropractor over here, whatever, all aspects of healing. And I'm managing it because, again, here I am, I'm the boss. So I have this practice. And so no matter where anybody is on their healing journey, they can come into my practice and be healed and be assisted. And then I realized when I delve more into myself, I don't want to do all that work. I want a lifestyle business. I want to be able to get up and go and travel whenever I want. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to have to manage people. The only person I want to have to manage is myself. So that was so important that now I'm here 13 years later because I built my business in a way that, yes, it is surrounded around me, but I have freedom. I can get up and go when I want to. I can pretty much practice wherever I want. I'm here in the DC area, and yes, I have clients here in the DC area, but I have clients around the world. So if I want to leave here for a month or 2 months, I can still see my clients. I can still work with them. That was so important to me as opposed to having a model where I'm stuck at my place of business.
Right. So how did you, was there a process that you used to kind of figure that out? Or did you just kind of start building the business in a certain direction and feel that it wasn't right and then kind of restructure? How did you do it? And what are some ways that you would recommend a business owner to kind of prioritize their self first so that they can have the successful business with the lifestyle that they want?
Yeah, so again, so what I did is that was actually a huge part of my 6 months because initially that was my vision, was the integrative model where I would manage it. And then through doing my work, I quickly realized like, I don't really want that. So I figured that out before I started building my business.
Okay.
So that was really important. I mean, I highly suggest that you get a coach. If not, I have a really good book, that I wrote called Bliss. And it's the practical guide to living a life of passion, purpose, and pleasure. And in that book, it asks a lot of questions. Really when you're doing a reflective process, it is about asking yourself a lot of questions and answering those questions. And a lot of times there are things that we simply have not thought of.
What are some examples?
Like, most people, so I had a client today and she's in the midst of a transition. She's actually a professor and she's figuring out, she likes doing that work. She likes teaching, but not in the way that she's doing and not in the institution that she's in. And so she's really looking at a career change. And one of the things that I asked her about is that, what do you want to be known for? When people want your services or your talents, what do you want them to call you? What do you want to be known for? What is the skill set that you want to, if you had to pick 3 skills that you want to be able to offer, what are those things that you want to be able to offer? And she was like, wow, that's a great question. I don't know. So in my book, Bliss, I'm asking you all kinds of questions because we don't question ourselves. We're used to existing in a set way. And when we're talking about living in truth, you have to ask yourself certain questions. You got to get outside of your box. You got to get outside of your comfort zone. And in order to do that, in order to stretch yourself, you have to ask yourself some truths and some things that you just never really thought of, and you got to be able to answer them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there was one other thing when we talked before, and then also in the information that you provided for the show, you talked about being able to help people to get grounded through meditation. Now, I personally don't think that meditation works for me because of the way my brain is set up, but maybe I haven't been doing it right, and maybe I don't know. But there are a lot of people out there who definitely want to meditate and get value from it, from the experience. But I'm going to guess, like any other thing, there's a right way to do it. There may be some steps to it. So can you talk to us about that? Like, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, we get overwhelmed a lot of times and we just need to step away, even if it's not physically going anywhere. So what is the right way for us to do that if we do need to just kind of step inside of ourselves for a little while to get grounded and to meditate and keep moving forward?
That's a great question. And one of the things that I have found in particularly this applies to not just business owners, but, anyone who's looking to make some sort of an impact is that the more successful that you become, the busier you become, the more overwhelmed you become, the more anxious you become, the less you practice self-care. And so meditation, there's numerous ways to, take care of yourself. And I do, presentations on that. I talk about that. So there's a lot, but meditation is one of the best ways to practice daily self-care. And self-care is really all about practicing any activity deliberately that is going to help you mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, that is going to improve, who you are as a person, improve your ability to function at a high capacity, at a high level. And as you know, as a business owner, you got to be able to function at a high capacity. You have to be able to function in overwhelm and depression and anxiety and, multitasking on multiple fronts at all times. And so self-care is extremely important. And so meditation is one of the ways that you can be grounded, you can be focused, you can release stress, you can release anxiety, you can release overwhelm, you can get back in harmony with yourself. And I have found that most people do not know how to meditate correctly, because they're not taught.
Right.
We're just simply not taught. Most people say, oh, I go to YouTube, or I've done Deepak Chopra and Oprah meditation, but did they teach you how to meditate, or did they just start saying some words and you're supposed to listen and follow? You don't know how to meditate. And so one of the things that I do when I, speak at a retreat or a conference or, an organization or whatever, or even in my own personal trainings with my students, is that I teach people the fundamentals of actually how to meditate. And that includes how to breathe correctly. That includes the correct posture. That includes, the times of days and things like that, the best times. So the actual fundamentals. And one of the things that I teach that I think is so important is two things for a beginner meditator and really for anybody who, even if they've been meditating for years, is I teach, what is called progressive relaxation. And so what that means is I actually teach you how to relax your body. And so it's not just about, meditating and, tuning out your mind, but it's about getting in tune with your body and learning how to relax. Because most of us do not know how to relax. We don't even know what it feels like to be relaxed. And
I can tell you for sure that I'm raising my hand high. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Relaxation stresses me out.
So if you can't relax, how can you meditate?
I don't know. That's why the times people have been like, oh, you need to do this. And a lot of times, like the people that I grew up around who talked about meditation, their meditation was also tied to you need to meditate and pray. And I have never been a prayer. I grew up in a Baptist church in a completely Christian environment. But I've never felt comfortable praying because somewhere in my mind I was like, I feel like I'm just talking to myself, so I might as well just talk to myself. So yeah, all of that connection, it's hard for me. And even relaxing, like the idea of, you mean I'm not doing anything right now? It just, it stresses me out. Yeah, help.
Yeah. So first thing I can free you is to say that meditation and prayer are totally different.
Okay, good. So I'll work on the meditation thing.
It is, yes. And it's a common saying that, prayer is talking to God and meditating is listening. So they're two entirely different functions. And there are some people who meditate and pray. I am one of those people. There are some people who just pray, and there are some people who just meditate. They are mutually exclusive.
Okay. So for us beginners, and not going too in depth, because obviously to be able to learn to do this properly, we need the help of an expert like you. But what is an overview of kind of the things that fall under progressive relaxation? What is that progress, or what is that structure, I guess?
So progressive relaxation, and the way that I do it, this is the other important part, is that, as a beginner, you absolutely need guided meditation. So what that means is there's so many different ways of meditating. Another common way of meditating is people will say, well, choose a mantra. I don't agree with that for a beginner. You need guided meditation. You need someone who is there walking you through it. Because then what happens is you can tune into the sound of my voice and just do what I say. You can focus on that. That gives your brain something to focus on. And so then you're better able to actually relax into the meditation. Because now you're not thinking about what to do. I'm telling you what to do. Just do it.
Right. Yeah, I would need that. I would need that.
But if you're there, just listening to music or silence or repeating a mantra over and over again, then your brain starts going everywhere. And you're like, am I doing this right? Is this how it's supposed to be? Or what am I supposed to pick up from the grocery store? Oh, I forgot. I got this deadline. I got to work on this project. That's what happens. But if it's a guided meditation where you're simply listening to the sound of my voice, tapping in and tuning into that and following my instructions, it gives your brain something to do. And now you become quiet because your brain is like, ooh, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. Oh, what did she say? She said, do this. Let me do that. Let me do that. Meanwhile, you're relaxing and don't even realize it.
Okay.
So the guided part of it is important. And really what it is I'm just taking you step by step through your whole entire body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and helping you to relax your entire body. And I have not met anybody that this has not worked for.
Yeah. So as I'm thinking about that, it almost feels like somebody giving you permission to relax.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I can definitely relate to that feeling of, I have so many people who rely on me. I feel guilty if I'm not doing something for somebody at some time.
Yeah. And that is why self-care is so important. And that is one of the most common things that I hear. And what I say to that is, when you are feeling guilty about taking care of yourself, and I want you to really think about this, and we say this with kids all the time, right? Like, for example, you want to get your kids all this stuff for Christmas or their birthday. And, really what kids want is you. I mean, yeah, they like the toys, but they end up getting bored with it. And really, they want your presence. They want your time. They want your attention. They want your love. And so when you think about self-care, what greater gift can you give to your loved ones than your own sense of wholeness and happiness? Because the more whole you are, the more happier you are, the more you can actually give them.
Okay.
So now you have a greater capacity to give more of yourself when you take care of yourself.
So I'm loving this right now. And as we're talking about this, I'm starting to feel guilty because I'm like, I just stole a whole counseling session from this woman. Called it a podcast and said, hey, Avalaura, can I take an hour of your time? But no, this is very valuable for me. And I know I have found that when I'm into the conversation and I'm picking up things that are really going to change my life, you're doing something that is also going to be huge for my audience. So I really appreciate that. I do not, though. I don't want to keep going down this path because I know I will. I will continue to ask more questions. And it's even starting the process of me thinking about my own healing, which is great. But we do only have an hour, and I want people to want to reach out to you so that they can get that additional information. So if it's all right with you, how about we roll into the final segment of the show, and I'll ask you a few quick fire questions about you.
Sure.
Okay, so the very first one you may have already covered, but I got to ask it anyway. What is the biggest challenge that you have ever faced? And what did you learn from it? Or how did you overcome it?
So, I mean, I could answer that in a number of ways, but I will stick to business because I don't want to open up a whole nother can of worms into another aspect. And then you have all these other questions. But the biggest challenge was really when I realized that I needed help. And again, I see that with so many of my clients because my clients are just like me. A lot of type A personalities, bosses are used to being able to do a lot of things on your own, very intelligent, educated. And so the idea of needing help from somebody else can be very daunting, the idea of having to ask for help. But I realized that I needed help. If I was going to get to the level of business that I wanted to, I had to get help. So I had to go ahead and get mentors and get business coaching. That was huge because what was happening is I started seeing all these people who were not as good as me, nowhere near as skilled as me, not helping the people in the way that I could help people. And they were getting much more attention and much more business simply because their marketing was better.
Again, you're speaking directly to me. I feel like you just came on here to preach to me. You are speaking my world. But you know what? We're not going to ask another question on that. We can connect tomorrow. I want to go to the next question. What is the number one tool that you use that saves you time, money, or energy? Your favorite tool? Like for me, it is my 10 to 8 appointment scheduling system. And at some point, I'm going to have to just get an affiliate link with them because I talk about them every single show. It's so great. But what is it that you use? What saves you time, energy, money, makes your life so much easier running your business?
Yeah, so I do a lot of social media. I post pretty much every day on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, not as much on Instagram, at least not every day, but those three. And so I love social media tools. I love Buffer. I love If This Then That. Those are my go-to. I love scheduling out my social media because it would drive me crazy if I had to post every day. But then I'm also a huge Google. Like I love all things Google. I love my Google Calendar. I love Google Docs. I love Google Forms. I love Google Transcription. Like Google is awesome.
Love it. Yeah, so the forms and the docs for Google and then definitely calendar and email are huge for me as well. But Buffer I haven't used. If This Then That, I use Zapier. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, I know Zapier as well. Yep.
Yeah. A lot of those same functions, right? Like when this happens, kick off an event that moves this to this place or that place, which is really great because it does save you a lot of time and energy and money with just putting things where you need them to go without you having to hire an assistant to do it for you. Love it. All right. So the next question I have for you, what is new, wild, and exciting in your life? What do you have coming up? And what can our audience do to support you in your business or in your events or whatever you have going on soon?
So I always have something going on. I have a lot of events coming up. I would say, so the best thing to do is join my mailing list, because then you'll always be in the know and get all the updates of what I have going on. So you can go to bit.ly/always powerful. And, when you sign up for that, you'll actually get the intro for my first book, Power, and you'll get on my mailing list. So that's bit.ly/always powerful. And then also connect with me on social media. Connect with me on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Again, it's kind of stay in the loop. I usually have something at least, every month. So I do, quite a few Reiki trainings. If you've ever heard of Reiki energy healing, if you're interested in learning that, I certify, students into Reiki. I have the meditation, 4-week meditation training coming up. That'll be coming up in January. I always start that after the new year. I also have, just a fun activity just for women, really all about self-care and sisterhood and adornment called the Crown Jewel. As you talked about my head wraps, this is going to be all about teaching women how to wrap their hair. Also going to be creating waist beads. So really tapping into beauty and adornment and just having fun with other women. That's coming up in November. That's going to be November, I think it's November 5th. I have a fashion show coming up for my head wraps. So there's a lot. So if you get on my mailing list, you can tap into that. You follow me on social media. You can tap into all of those things. But again, that's one of the beauties of having my business and understanding who I am, is that I don't like to be bored. I like to do different things. I like to be creative. I like to, work with all of my gifts, not just, oh, I'm a coach, but I'm great at head wraps. Why not teach it and offer that? So that, again, that was one of the things about learning myself and having a business that is able to support all those aspects of me.
Right. Well, and I can attest for that. You do have some very beautiful head wraps and different skills and ways that you put them all together. It's wonderful. What about for people who do want to get a life coach and a healing coach to help and support them, whether it's because they are entrepreneurs or simply because they recognize that they do need that grounding? How do they get in touch with you? Where can they go to find more about that offering?
Of course, and you can always go to my website. I am Googleicious. There's only one Avalaura. So literally you type in AVAL, I will pop up. But AVALAURA, that is my website, avalaura.com. My social media handles all have Avalaura in it. Again, you do that, they will pop up. So you can connect with me that way. You can email me. And here's what I'm willing to do for your audience. If you email me at avalaura@avalaura.com with the subject of Buy Black Podcast, I will gift you with a 20-minute complimentary consultation. And so we can talk about, your life, who you are, what's happening with you, what you need, and how I can support you.
I love it. That is wonderful. So email avalaura@avalaura.com. And for those folks out there who aren't ready to take that step, you already mentioned one great resource, your book called Bliss. And then what you've also got out there is you've got a podcast with about 20 to 25 episodes that are also a great resource that I was looking through with Libsyn, that if you have people who are more audio friendly rather than reading, then you've also got a resource that's out there for them. It's called Avalaura Heal My Life Podcast. And I love your cover art, by the way. I need you to help me get my stuff together.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's available everywhere. That's on my website. It's also on iTunes. It's on iHeart. It's on Spotify. So you can find my podcast everywhere.
Love it. Well, Avalaura, thank you so much for joining us today. I have to hit you with the last question of the day, which is, what is your number one piece of advice for our listening community as a whole?
Well, I think I said it, so I'll stick to that. If your mind ain't right, your business ain't tight.
It ain't nothing better than that. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
And understand that self-care is the best healthcare. If you're practicing self-care, that is the best thing that you can do for yourself, for your business, for your family, for everybody.
Wow. I'm putting both of those back to back. That's going to be like the title of the show. If your mind ain't right, your business ain't tight, self-care is the best healthcare. I feel like I could hear people just chanting that at a rally. Yeah, you might want to trademark that one. Okay.
I love it.
All right. Well, this has been an absolutely enlightening and engaging and reflective conversation for me. I thank you so much. Every time we talk, I pick up so much from you. So I just really appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
All right. For those of you out there in podcast world, that is it for us, and we will catch you in the next episode. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this great episode with Avalaura. I just wanted to give you a quick reminder. Buy Black Podcast Live is going on Facebook. If you are not currently following me at facebook.com/GWJONESII, and if you're not following the Buy Black Podcast page, you are missing out on some great content. We're actually about 5 episodes ahead on the live. So if you connect there, you'll be able to get the content a month before the people who are just following the show in the directories. last week we did a show on Facebook ad campaigns that you guys will be able to get in about a month. But go ahead and join us on Facebook now. You'll be able to find the video. You'll be able to jump in and ask questions of the guest, David. And this is going to be going here forward on Facebook. So join us, get connected. And as always, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google, or wherever you prefer to get your podcasts as well. All right, y'all be safe, and we'll talk to you next week.